Perfect. We'll go ahead and start.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. I forgot to turn my mic off. But we'll go ahead and start this meeting. Thank you all for coming this evening. Will please be quiet as we, and if you need to take a call, outside, as the sound does really travel. Okay. Thank you. We're glad you all could be here. Because this is a special meeting, there will be no public comment. The first thing on our agenda is district operational update. And we wanted to get this agenda out as soon as possible to let our community know that we'd be having this meeting. And so we put that on there in case there was more information other than what we got last night. There's no updated information. So we will go ahead and move from the district operational update to item B on our agenda. No one requested this information, but we do have the plan in front of you in case you wanted to reference that or that. And I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, Madam Chair, I move that effective immediately, the Nampa School District require face coverings, masks, and gaiters or shields when determined by district leaders to be appropriate for all students and personnel while inside district buildings. Further, that physical distancing be done when possible. Contact tracing and quarantines follow IDHW guidelines. I will help you. Please, the quarantines take place with known COVID cases and contacts to the extent possible. Lastly, this policy continues for the fall semester, but an opt-out option be explored after the first quarter and when absences for elementary are less than 10%, secondary less than 50%. That's a lot of words, so I have copies that I can.
And I will second that motion. So it's moved by trustee Kip, seconded by trustee Simpson. And I am going to give you guys just a moment to read through it as trustee Kip said. There are other words here.
And obviously there was other information that I included, kind of like thinking that I wanted to provide.
So your motion is the top.
Just the top
three paragraphs. So we'll go ahead and read that, and then I'll let trustee Kip speak to his motion. Zach, sorry, I just want to make, was that more time to get through the motion? Sorry, trustee Vasquez. Perfect, thank you, trustee Kip. Will you speak to your motion, please?
Sure, well, we have to keep schools open. All sides of this issue want schools to remain open, want kids to be in classrooms, and we try to focus on the students. And currently, we are in a policy of masks are optional. And that has shown to not be helpful to keeping schools open. It seems we're headed toward closing schools, possibly. We had some school closures or online or hybrid, and that's evidenced by at least 3 schools that have hit or exceeded benchmarks set last year for closing schools that our state maybe put out. So right now, our context, we have abnormally high absentee rates for elementary at about 14.5%, middle school about 20%, and high school at 25%. Normally those rates are less than 5% for elementary and less than 10% for secondary. So our kids are not in the classroom and we're not able to focus on excellence. That's a concern. We want kids in the classroom, but our current plan doesn't seem to be making that happen. Additionally, we have significant rates of COVID positive tests in the district that has been reported. Those are just known COVID tests. 114 last week, 48 so far this week. Again, those are just those that are reported, because this is self-report. And lastly, there's a high number of staff absences and a continuing number of open classrooms daily across the district. So that's the context within which this motion is made, that we are not on the trajectory we've seen to keep schools open. We don't want to be online. We don't want to be hybrid. We want to keep the schools open. The current plan doesn't seem to be delivering that, so I think it's time for a change. This is the one I wanted to suggest. I am seeking to compromise certainly from last year's plan. In the motion, gators are permitted. Face shields, when the district determines that that's appropriate, can be used. We're talking about internal Nampa School District measurements. We're not looking at the county. We're not looking at those things. We're just looking at can we operate our kids in the classroom so they can learn, our teachers there so that they can teach. I have included in this motion the possibility of an opt-out to be explored after our current situation stabilizes. And in the motion that was after the first quarter, that could be explored, so we have sufficient time. What we know after a holiday weekend, things, you can see a spike about 2 weeks later. That's what we've seen historically in this community. Labor Day just happened, so we're cautiously we're expecting that the COVID numbers are going to go up. So acting now helps to protect that and keep our situation at least stable, hopefully improve it. We have to put our kids and our community first. We have to endure short-term discomfort to keep the schools open. That's what we want. That's what I want. I'm more committed to that than ever. So that is the reason.
Questions, comment?
Yes, please. First question is, we are missing trustee Westfall.
Oh, sorry. She had an unexpected emergency and is not going to be able to attend tonight. She texted right before the meeting.
Perfect. Would you like to explain the protocols maybe as we don't have time votes?
Sorry, say that again. Will you get more volume for her, please? Hey, Mike, will you pass that microphone? Maybe we'll try this other one. Sorry. Sorry. Thank you, Trustee Ross.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
I beat them all, sorry. So you were going to explain what happens with 4 trustees and motions and vote?
Excellent. Yes, thank you. So our policy is that the chair breaks a tie. I don't think any one person should be deciding this. That's me. And as the chair, I get to make that call. I'm hoping tonight I have all of us here. Thank you. I wanted all of us here because I think it's the responsibility of all of us trustees to make that decision. So if we have a tie vote, I will not be breaking a tie. I'm hoping we can work together as a group to come up with a decision, either one way or the other. That helps. I know, I don't do things like anybody else, do I think? And I'm not sure why people are upset in the audience. Any other questions or comments about the motion?
I do, please. I'd like to understand, you have some context in here about significant rates and actual data on COVID positive tests. I'm curious where you got those numbers because I asked in the meeting last night this specific question and the superintendent earlier in the week this question and haven't received the same answer.
Yeah, you did.
On the COVID positive tests.
Right on the website. It's on our website.
Okay, so
And it was,
go to your website, there's a number of positive cases. So are you calling this positive cases? Or because there are those that test that don't always come back positive, but so you're saying these are your numbers of tests.
No, I'm not. That may have been a that was just my context for my thinking.
Okay,
It doesn't change or alter the motion.
okay,
So Mike, you intended to say positive cases?
If that's the data that is recorded, then that's what that portion should have said.
so today I printed off the website from 9/5 to 9/8. And I have 2 staff and 43 students.
Okay.
You have 48 and 100. Yeah, you have 48. So from 45 to 48 is where you're at. You have 3 more here.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm a mistake.
no worries. Okay. When
I can assure you that that was that intentional.
I appreciate that. I apologize. I am very caught off guard. You are extremely prepared with a full motion that we're just seeing for the first time. And just last night, we got understanding of what this meeting looks like. I feel very caught off guard. So I apologize. Give me 1 second.
May I say that my intention, I wrote this today. I was in class last night. I think it was that meeting. I wrote this today. This came from the information that we were provided by the superintendent. That's most of the context. The seeking compromise is my own work, thinking about how do we find a middle way. Because it seems as if in this conversation, as I've had conversations with patients, I say, so if it comes down to online or masks, what would you pick? Like, because that may be where we're headed. And I had patients say, let's mask, because we got to keep these in school. So this is my attempt to find a middle way.
Perfect. I mean, a real fact. This is some positive intent. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So help me understand, we do have some high absentee rates right now, you know, district in our numbers, and our kids are not in class. Help me understand how your motion helps get kids in class.
Well, the assumption, given what's happening in the community, given what's happening with COVID infections, from some of the patients that I'm hearing, feeling like the kids aren't safe to be in school. So there are all kinds of reasons kids are not in school. Some could be sick, some could be traveling, some could not feel safe. Changing the environment is an opportunity to change that calculus. What is happening, what we're doing right now is yielding these results. So I'm simply suggesting we have to take another tack. Other school districts around us are going to the same tack. Because we hear from medical professionals that master applications, that we can stop the spread and can make a difference in our attendance and in the school year. That's my motivation. My motivation is solely how do we keep the schools open.
Thank you. Follow-up question, Motion?
Yes.
Do you have any data to support that masks are an effective way to stop the spread or help with the situation of keeping kids in school?
I don't have a study with me. I have several studies since we to different folks about the math scores. And I've also had studies say masks don't work. But what is clear from, I think, what we're experiencing is that no mask doesn't work either. And vaccinations is the best thing. If you could vaccinate everyone, that would be awesome. But that's not because that's proven to work, but that's not what I'm asking for. I'm simply asking to do a temporary thing indoors, just indoors in school buildings. And this is something that can be reviewed. If our numbers don't move, we as a board have the right to change that. Something has got to change. Because we are not delivering excellent education to all students. And that is what we're trying to do. That is our mission. And right now we're not doing it. So this is an attempt to get back to it.
Thank you. Last question on the motion. How does this help students in their education and their learning?
It's back in the classroom. Keeps your teachers in the classroom. Keeps schools open. All of the things that we believe are best for kids. Kids in classrooms.
Yeah.
Trustee Feller, any questions? So I believe keeping kids in school, we got presented with data last night on how our students performed in the last 18 months, and we saw a definite drop. And so for me, that is direct data that says when kids aren't in school in person, right, with their teacher, Dr. Russell, I think it was on page 1 of Highly Reliable Schools by Marzano, that says it is that teacher that is the #1 important thing we gotta have in front of kids. And so for me, it really stuck with me last night. Trustee Kidd said, what we're doing is not working. And it's not when we're having to shut down schools in different areas and requiring our community all of a sudden to not have access to our schools because we have teachers out in that building. I think it was 20%. And I'm not high, it was higher than 20%, over 20% of the staff was out. That is not equitable when we have certain buildings that have to shut down. Sorry, that have to shut down and miss instruction. And that is one of our jobs, is to make sure that we are providing education and equitable education for all. So to me, I don't have all the answers, and I've seen lots of research, and many of you have provided research. The CDC says schools should be open with masks. Those are the people who do this job, right? Pediatrics, right? They're saying the same thing. Schools should be open with masks. I don't know. It's not the answer that I necessarily want. But what happens if we continue in this matter and we have to keep shutting down schools? I think what we saw is we're doing a disservice to students. Disservice. We ready?
No, I was gonna give
Yeah,
Trustee
sure.
Kara an opportunity.
I asked her to, yeah.
I don't have any questions, and I think you're asking me for ready to go. So I didn't have any more questions, but I definitely have my research that I have done as well. But I will give you an opportunity to look at that.
Well, I just will say, last night we had our workshop and we had the opportunity to review our code of ethics and also the learning plan. The thing that stuck out to me the very most is the very last line right before my signature. And it says, remember always that my first and greatest concern must be the educational welfare of the students attending public schools. And I recognize that that can be interpreted in different ways, but for me and my heart, my children, the love I have for the school district, educational welfare, and again, we have to put everything in scale, right? We have to decide health, safety, education. For me, educational welfare, well, with our vision statement, extraordinary learning experiences, our children's in classrooms without masks. Parents having the right to choose what is the best for their family and their children. So for me, that's your compromise. You said you must put kids and community first. To me, that looks different than it does to you, and I recognize that, and that's fine. I think that's healthy for us to see coming from different directions. So that might give you a little indication of how I feel about the motion that's before us tonight. I do think that some of the pieces that are in your motion are a good compromise and things we can talk about, but there are pieces that I would like to change as well.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, definitely.
We're currently giving parents choice, but we're here. Do you see that as a problem with our numbers?
No, so I see like the number of kids that weren't in school. Remember how I told you my whole time and you laughed at me because I was such an optimist. So when I see the numbers, I see we have 2,597 kids absent Monday, August 30th, which is a lot of children to be gone from school and for reasons that we don't know, we can't know. And I think we had 11,000 kids in school in a classroom with their teacher. So I feel like we are terrified of these numbers. We're terrified of the numbers. We see that 43 kids have COVID. None of them are in the hospital. None of the kids, I can't speak for the staff, I don't know. The last time I looked, there have been 5 hospitalizations of children since COVID began in the city of Nampa. As far as I know, none of them are currently in the hospital. I think this is asking the children to continue to carry the burden of adults because children are not being terribly affected by it. But they sick. I'm not saying that, but I am saying that the children are not being hospitalized, the children are not dying, the children are being sick. And I think it's a healthy thing that we have 20% of the kids out. So that means parents are taking this seriously. And if their kids have sniffles or runny nose, they're letting their kids stay home and work through this. So to me, I don't see that as a negative thing.
Multi-system inflammatory, multi-system inflammatory syndrome. And that's 29 kids. That's 29 kids in Canada. But kids, this is serious. Yes, thank God it's not serious for every kid, or for a majority of kids. But we have employees who file workers' comp claims on us because they're in the IC right now. And they were in an unsafe work environment. So we have to provide, if we provide an education, we have to provide a safe environment for everyone.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the idea of choice. I respect that. We've been trying that, and it's not working. I'm afraid we're playing whack-a-mole, and we don't have very many tools to use. Masks are a tool that we can use. This is not forever. Masks are a temporary, step to see. If the numbers don't change, then we can come back to this and say, the numbers didn't change, maybe we're wrong, and I'll say, I was wrong. Let's try something else. But right now, what we're doing is not working. I mean, to me, I'm a simple guy. It's not working. We need to have a different path. We can talk about studies and all of these things, but I'm not sure that really helps us when the reality of what we're doing is not working. What are we going to do to get to a better place? Because 25% of high school kids outside, I love to be optimistic. That's horrible to me. 25% of kids when only 10% are absent. That's a problem. We are not educating all kids. We're not caring for all kids in our community. When there's 15% more out than is typical. That's not acceptable.
I guess I go back to the mission statement and vision statement, which is I'm here for the kids. So I'm not going to worry about the adults. I recognize the school district is an employer and the school district has to worry about adults, and then that's part of our job. But the mission, vision statement, and everything that I signed according to the Board of Ethics comes back to the kids. The mission of the Nampa School District is to ensure high levels of achievement for every student, and that every student is fully engaged in extraordinary learning experiences. So tonight, that's what I'm here to work for. I feel like masking children to help adults isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I would prefer that the children have, the families have the opportunity to choose.
If we don't have extraordinary educators in the room, we can't provide an extraordinary education. If it's a person who is just there because they were needed, they're applauding, thank you for coming, but we're not putting the best in front of our kids.
Yeah.
And so to do the first thing, we have to do the second thing. I mean, this is the system that works together. It's an illusion in my view that we just kids can do whatever they want and they're going to learn. That's not going to happen as an educator. We want to have the best people in the room. We want them healthy and focused and rested.
Right. So when I take that skill, because we have to do it, I think as policymakers, that's the crux of being policymakers, that you don't please people and that people's lives are in balance and you have to make a choice. And that's why we see all of us and that's why this is hard. But for my scale that looks different than yours, that's great. I'm just going to choose quality education, which I think is still happening in our buildings, over health of people. Because I think it's not, I agree that it's an issue. I'm not going to say it's not an issue. I agree it's an issue, but I think the numbers aren't giving me as big of flashing lights as they are to others.
But I'm going to gently push back.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do.
I think I might have heard you start to say you're going to choose quality of education over the quality of educators. And I know that's not what
That's
you mean.
not right.
And I know that's not what you
Thank
mean.
you for correcting me.
Well, I know that's not what you mean, but in your part. But it sounds like that's what we're doing if we don't want to protect our teachers, our employees, so that they can do their best.
Right. I feel like yeah. Okay. I'll stop that. Thank you. I thank you for correcting me because that was not my.
I know it's not. I know that. I know your heart. But I don't want us ever to choose. I mean, it's the whole. I mean, the school, it's educators. It's
Right, it's
other
just
staff
the-
and it's kids.
Yeah.
We can't, bifurcate it. It's just education happens magically for the kids only, right?
I recognize
And
that.
so to keep the employees and the kids healthy and highly functioning, we have to do something other than what we're doing. Because what we're doing, they're not highly functioning. 25% of our high school kids are not sick. So that's a problem. And we have to address that rather than just talk about it. We need to have a different function. We need to attack this differently. And I'm all ears. I'm just offering, I'm offering saying, here's something. It's different than what we're trying. It's a lot different than what we did last year. A lot different. It's much more scaled back. I did it on purpose. It doesn't mention anything about activities. It doesn't mention anything about sports. I'm talking about what's happening in the building.
So can you help me understand that when there's a sports event in the building, that would be no face coverings are required according to your motion?
I suppose, but that's not what my intent was.
And when it was specifically like that's what we're referring to. So if you're saying masks in the building, that means if there's a volleyball game tomorrow, this motion passes as written. The volleyball players and all students, all parents, everyone will be masks in the building. That's what I'm trying to say.
Sure. Perhaps that needs to be an edit in it, because I did intend to include sports and activities. Should we? Probably, but I wasn't intending to. I was trying to say what's happening during school, so maybe during the
During the educational hours.
educational process of kids in hallways and in classrooms. That was the intent of my motion. But you're right. Technically, that's it. We're at lunch.
I appreciate your motion. I'm a data person, so I definitely asked, the reasons behind your motion to gain some understanding of what data you had available. And the reasons that you gave were suggestions, opportunities, assumptions, feelings, copying, all of the effort to keep schools open. And I'm going to say, I was asked yesterday how I was feeling about this meeting. And I said, I don't know, I'm still listening. I still wanted to listen to our district leaders and listen to a recommendation from those, from our superintendent. I wanted to listen to our community and understand where they were. We don't have either of those options. So I dug in further to find data. And I have to rely upon all of the conversations that I've had with our community, with our teachers, with our students, and with our nurses in this community, right here with pure data facts. And what I did hear and learn, well, what data we were handed today, we have heard a lot of feelings of not being safe. Some assumptions of how COVID is spread within our schools and there being a spreader. Southwest District Health has reported 0 cases of those students that have been exposed at school and later affecting household members. So I hope that helps folks understand that those that I'm hearing from that are concerned that if we have schools open in our current format, out of the current students that Southwest District Health has as positive, 0 of them have transmitted, or that are positive, transmitted to any household members. Also, 0 members.
Is that this week or is that over the course?
That is the week of 8/29 to 9/4, which is the most current data that Southwest District gives for all of last week. They also noted that out of those that are COVID positive that were exposed by their household, which by the way was the majority are getting it from within their household. 0 later came to school and infected others at school. So for the concern for teachers that we're hearing, that kids are coming to school later, we have 0, according to Southwest District Health, transmissions to anyone within the schools. That helps me feel better. I walk into our schools, our open house. I talk to the teachers. They're happy. Our kids are thriving. They're excited and they're learning. And the social, emotional part of our kids and their mental well-being, the athletics taking place, the school pride, that's what this community needs. They are begging us, and they've used the word, I am begging and pleading, please. And these are teachers begging, do not mask us. I teach more effectively. I connect with my kids more effectively. They are learning better. We are getting parents begging us, do not mask. My child it is hindering them academically, mentally, and we educate kids. This is what we do. This is not a year ago. I agree. I appreciate the concessions of understanding this is very different than last year. It is. We have a wealth of knowledge and data behind us now. And our community, they're more educated than we are, right? The amount of resources that they're sending our way, you're right, it's on both sides. So to pick a side right now doesn't sound right. And it also sounds like we know more than they do. And I'm not about to say that, I do. It is a personal decision for everyone. I had a very close friend have her husband in COVID just recently get out of the ICU. And last year, she was a big proponent of having kids in school, not masked, having athletics. She was a big advocate for that. And I reached out to her and I said, in light of your husband's, in the ICU with COVID, not doing well, wasn't sure he was going to make it. He is home now. I said, but they're still enduring. In light of what your family has endured, do you have a different opinion? Do you think we should do some things differently right now? She said, no, kids come first. Even for respiratory nurse, there said 1% is a mortality rate here, and they have comorbidities and all kinds of other factors. They are more elderly and those with comorbidities. We can't control that, but we are talking about kids. Didn't change your mind. Talk about all the other nurses. I'm trying to get research and data from our community on both sides and ask these nurses, tell me what I'm missing, what I don't know, and what's different now with the Delta variant, with this quick and fast spread. And she's going, our hospitals are in a bad situation. We know that. She's also a trauma nurse where she gets called in when there are minors that have been assaulted. She said, just last weekend, I had to come in for 2 rape cases. Unfortunately, before COVID and all these mandates, I could get someone in 3 to 4 days. She says now it's 4 weeks to get that interview, to get these kids the help and attention that they need. So I don't want anything to do with this motion or any resemblance of any mandate. These conversations in our community and what we've learned and what I'm hearing, the damage we've done. These same teachers are so excited to have their kids in their classes, and parents are also saying, but we're lacking academically, right? We realized we're behind. And we saw that in our data last night. We got some serious academic gaps. And we had teachers say, so when kids have to wear masks, I can't reach them. So right now, the number of kids that are out is not consistent. So when you want to quarantine kids for close contact for 2 weeks, they're gone. You lose these kids and you lose that instruction for 2 weeks. So that's a struggle for me. She's saying right now, kids have the sniffles. Kids have the back to school sniffles. It's been this way since the dawn of time of sending kids back to school. First couple of weeks, mixed in with all kinds of other people, they get the sniffles. It's what every teacher right now is saying the most. As trustee told us last night, they're keeping them home safe. Yeah, I agree. 2,600 kids not in school right now is a lot of kids. They are being overly cautious because of this scenario, because of this conversation that we don't have. And when we do this, we open that door, we cause more distrust. And the harm that we're going to do as a result of making any motion tonight far outweighs what we're looking at with our 1%. If you really want to talk about the 1%, and that's what it is, right? We have 10 staff members out, 1%.
I'm just not clear what the 1% is.
We have 10 staff members out. If we have 1,400 staff members, that's 0.07. We have 104 students out. If you use 13,000 kids, that's 0.0808. Less than 1%.
So those are COVID.
Those are COVID positive cases.
More absentee rate.
But everything you're recommending is COVID mitigation. So why are we using COVID mitigation? Kids have the sniffles, kids have the flu, they come and go. That's what teachers are saying. They're gone for a day, they're gone for a day or two. They're keeping them home for a little bit just to be safe. Good job, thank you. Then they're sending them back. But they're not missing these extended periods of time for things. We're not enacting COVID mitigation strategies that are removing kids from classes and causing burdens on families and teachers. And ultimately, there's that same economic burden that we haven't even discussed of when families then have to come home and have childcare. And we have to recognize our community. No one else, all these kids are still out doing sports. They're still out doing everything. We still want to do that. So why would we implement mitigation strategies for 50% of our kids' lives? The majority, again, that came through Southwest District Health, the majority are not getting it in our schools
So why implement all these strategies? Why cause all this disruption within our community where they're concerned that we're gonna constantly yank the rug out, change things, reevaluate things that will always be different, and we're gonna get a random special meeting called on. Nobody wants that. They have been ruining this day. I am not in favor of doing this. I appreciate our superintendent and how she has to date handled things. We have a high rate of staff members out. Not sure why, we probably the same. We don't know the numbers. We have a high rate of staff members out. You can't fill them with subs. We have an employment issue in this valley. It's very hard to find people. I asked the numbers of typically how many substitutes we needed in historical before COVID. It was like 60. It was doable. We're barely filling 40 right now. But yet, I think I was looking at it was like 240 in 1 week, but that was for the whole week. So that's not a fair representation in one day. So she makes that decision on what she needs to do for a short temporary basis per building, per school. Centennial, she needed to do that at the beginning. She saw the numbers. She enacted a quick 2-week mask of the adults didn't impact. They moved on. Centennial numbers right now, 0 staff, 2 students. I'd say she did just fine. Same thing. We couldn't get people in there. And I want to be clear because I'm super bummed about our media coverage. And I get all these reports and people are excitable. And you're getting emails about, I'm hearing the news and I'm hearing we closed Snake River because of 30% of staff can't be there and there are 9 positive cases. I want to make this very clear. There was 1 staff member that was COVID positive at Snake River at that time. And well, still, there's never been more in any of that paperwork. There were 9 total in the district that were positive at that time. That did not read that way. And so again, we're getting these alarming emails. And so if anything, I'm just taking this time to let you know the numbers, to help you feel better and to understand. I feel like the superintendent is doing a good job with temporarily working on safety for our schools. I spoke with our attorney and asked, what is this with this special meeting and what do we enact? And he basically informed me, this is the baseline. So you'd like to raise this baseline up here right now with this motion and with this meeting today. The superintendent has no availability to drop. So you're looking at extremely long timelines for entire semesters with your motion.
Semester, singular.
Fall semester, it says first quarter though, so even first quarter.
Lastly, this policy will continue for the fall semester, but that an opt-out option be explored after the first quarter when absences for elementary are less than 10%, secondaries less than 15%.
When they're not completely out of line. And, to be fair, there are teachers who are begging us to enact mask mandates. Also, there are parents begging us.
I
There are
understand.
students. So
They have the availability right now to wear those masks. And if they have COVID, what I was going to finish saying is, in speaking with our legal attorney, he said our plan was good, that he felt that it was one of the top 20% in the state, and that he reminded me our current plan, our attorney felt was one of the top 20% in the state. He reminded me that our legislators have enacted a bill when they came back to special session that alleviated any liability from districts, if you recall, in the event that anybody did contract COVID and have any ill effects from it, that
We cannot be found negligent for that. That continues till July of 2022. And that he felt that in our plan, we were solid and good for that. We did not have any holes or problems that should cause us concern or issue. And that this is our baseline plan, and he felt it was good. And should the superintendent feel that there is any imminent safety need or requirement that she needs to make a change, as she already has twice, that she has the availability to add to our plan temporarily for those needs. And that is the position that I would like to continue with.
I'm not sure that was clear before it was just said now, because I think this plan, I'm not sure, when we asked the superintendent, I'm not sure she felt like she had that authority to do those things.
She's already done it twice.
Because it was imminent, and it was deeply concerning that she acted because that was the right thing to do. I would prefer not to have a baseline plan. I want to take care of our community, our district community, and having a baseline plan that we play whack-a-mole with a potentially deadly disease is not satisfactory to me. I don't feel like it's honoring the humanity of others. And I think seeking compromise on a short-term basis, when what we're doing is not working, is better and more respectful.
If I were to follow your same logic, we have 1% of this could be deadly for. Remembering we haven't had any in children, but maybe for COVID, as we've learned our data, about 1% could have mortality for COVID. And that is something that we don't want to have happen in our district. If I were to follow your same logic on that, I would also then have to recommend that our district go with a completely gluten-free nutrition policy as for 1% of our nutrition. And for those who choose celiac, and I'm not talking about the intolerance, that percentage is even higher, but that 1% cannot be in contact with gluten, have that in anything, and we're not accommodating them either, and they can die from that as well. So I'm not following that same logic. Is what I'm saying.
Let me share with you that, because the gluten doesn't affect other people in that scenario. It only affects those folks, and COVID will affect a much larger number of people. If death is our measurement for success, we need to measure. We need to have a much higher bar than people die. That is crazy to me. We would be having that competition. Only 1% of people die. That's okay.
What you're saying is you would like to impose restrictions on 99% for the 1%. That's the point I'm making.
I value human life that much that it's a temporary thing.
What you suggested does not give me any reason to believe that schools will be more open. But what I have heard from our community and our people is it will absolutely impair education more.
Because I could match that with a person to every one of your people, likely teachers and students.
So let's not suppose to try to say that we know more than they do. Let's let them make the choice for themselves.
So I have just a couple things. One, Trustee Ross, if you'll just clear up for me, because at last night's meeting, I said that if you trustees, if you want to hear a recommendation from our superintendent and leadership team tonight, that now is the time to ask them to prepare it. Not one trustee asked for a recommendation.
when I made that statement of when someone had asked me how I was feeling, that was prior to the meeting. And I think I was still waiting for that when we got that last night. And that's why we talk about, I like workshops, right? I like workshops 2 weeks before, so I can process it. I was so caught off guard that you were literally letting me know that night that I was walking into this theater with no recommendation, no public input, no presentation. You were putting me on a stage in the off chance that I might want to change our policy, but you never asked me if I wanted to change our policy and come to this meeting. So we felt like we didn't have a choice. We recognized you as the board chair. We said we were available, and I was still reeling from that right there in itself, to be honest.
So why, I mean, I'm gonna ask you this, because how come when I said and asked, can you meet for this board meeting, you didn't follow up with questions of like, what's the meeting about? Why do we need to have it?
You told us what the meeting was about, and so typically, commonly, prior, right? There's a reason. So we are getting our emails. We know she's made adjustments, okay? We're seeing things. We don't know everything though. And so I didn't know, I was giving due respect. Was there something that they were proposing that they had reason, and I was gonna get this data and information to know why, which was why my very first question when the motion came was, what's your data to support this? That's how we run every meeting, is with a presentation with data to give us knowledge to help us make good decisions.
Well, you got that data last night and leading up.
No problem. And I used that data and I went out and found it more, and so I'm good.
I just want to make sure, because you are very much saying that you expected a recommendation and weren't given one. You were allowed the opportunity to voice that you would like to hear a recommendation. You chose not to ask for it. 1. 2, do you not feel like we haven't heard from our community? I am hearing and seeing and reading from every person in here. I have been reading emails. I can't even respond back to them because I'm just trying to read them and hear from our community. But I also asked last night, tell me differently if you feel like we haven't heard from our community.
You know, I heard today in a lot of emails that a survey, a more inclusive survey of more folks that we did in the past would be helpful. And so potentially we need to take that in mind with our teachers and with our parents, maybe even our high school students. I think we talked about that last night, even of having surveys with those groups for their understanding and impact. So they've lived through it, they know what it is now.
Right, but what has stopped any of them? I don't know about you, but I've gotten emails from students. I was reading emails up here to hit every single email that came in before 6:30. Because you're right, I want to hear. I don't know more than these people. Okay? I know I can read the signs. I can read and see what people are asking. Okay? Now, you also asked for data. You asked for data and you also gave data that backs that masks work. You actually said that our superintendent at Centennial did a 2-week mask for staff to try to rectify that situation, and you said it worked. I think you can hear what I'm saying. I want to get in and out of here just as quickly as you guys do, right? So you said it worked, mask worked. Do you not think our district data from the largest, so currently we've had more people out than we ever had out when we had masks last year in our district? That's our district data. I don't have those numbers right, the 2,000, I think it was 597. Superintendent. Last year was like at our highest, worst point out in quarantine. Thank you. Okay, that's all right, thank you. We have more out at this point than we ever did. To me, that talks to masks work. What about our special education kids?
What about them? If they can't learn with math either.
We can talk to that, and that's, so I recall 2 emails off the top of my head from parents of special ed. One, that was special ed, but also had some autoimmune disorders. And because of their autoimmune, needed to wear a mask. And where that parent was concerned that others weren't wearing masks and therefore leaving their student or child exposed. The second email that I recall was a parent that said, because of my special ed students, they need to see faces and can't learn without that.
So, I mean, and this talks about shields, right? Which shields are clear, you're able to see faces.
And I think people are welcome to wear shields even now. Anyone who would like to have protection or face mask is welcome to right now.
Right, and so I think it's important to remember that the difference here is that when I wear this mask, it doesn't protect me. When I wear this mask, it protects everyone around me. Because my germs are not spreading through the room.
Everybody has a different sort of opinion on that, and so I don't want to get into that, I apologize.
Okay. We have, our special education population is by far our most vulnerable population of kiddos. And I'm going to tell you, you talk to every parent, you talk to every special education teacher, educator, staff member, special, ESP, all of our staff that serve those students. Most of them are high risk and very, very vulnerable and do not do well online. I can't even imagine possibly trying to find daycare if I were a parent with a special ed kiddo who's notified on a Thursday night that my kid doesn't get to go to school on Friday.
Our special ed classes, are they combined or are they mixed within our population?
It totally depends. It completely depends. So we have some, it's least restricted environment is where those kiddos are. And so for some, they are mixed in with the general ed population of our buildings. Some are
And do they have
contained.
options? Do they have options to wear a mask? They do.
Are they able to?
But does everyone else, they may not even be able
You're
to.
taking away people's options.
I get it. And here's the thing, you know, I get it. You want choice.
The community wants
The
choice.
community wants choice. Don't you think you want choice though too?
I am listening to our community.
Okay. People want choice. I want choice. I think we all want choice.
Constitutional right.
Okay? Well, we have rules and regulations for reasons, right? I mean,
Andy,
I want
if
choice.
you don't see the bigger picture of these implications, I can't explain it to you in this evening. And if you're dug in on that's where you feel your personal belief is, I am trying to look above my personal, and as I said, I have tried hard to reach out to multiple people and say, explain to me, help me understand, help me know what I'm missing. That is why I asked the questions I asked. How many have taken the test? Like, how many close calls have we had? We don't know how many have taken the test. We just know the numbers. So all I can do is know my total number and my total number positive. And from that data, none of these COVID mitigations make sense. The legislation was not that districts are not responsible. It is elected officials are not responsible.
No, I specifically talked to legal, I specifically asked because it includes businesses, it includes governments, it's all across the board, and that absolutely is why they went back to special session.
Okay. I know we have to have teachers in the classroom. We have to. So let's talk about it. This is why we're having this meeting. How do we keep teachers in the classroom?
So they're there now. They're doing well now. Why are we disrupting what's going so well right now? Kids are happy. Teachers are happy. All the kids. That's not school. I could have done that. And what you're trying to do for a solution will make it worse, not better. No, my suggestion is to continue with our plan, which is among the top 20% in the state.
It's not much.
That's what we did with Centennial, and that's what we'll do. I think that's what I heard you argue is good. The superintendent can just mask it. Is that accurate? I'm just, if it's not this, what is it? That's all I'm trying to get.
It's what we're, it's,
But what we're doing is just, it's optional. There isn't much of follow through if there's an outbreak. That's not in there.
what do you consider an outbreak? So we didn't close it because of a COVID outbreak. We closed it because we couldn't get enough substitutes for teachers that were out, and we don't know the reasons why they were out.
Okay.
So I agree, we don't know, which means we can't say it wasn't COVID or that it was.
Well, we can't say it wasn't COVID because we know how many were COVID and nobody won.
Requiring folks to take a test.
That's not good. That's not true.
So I can,
Well, then we better get better data, and until we do, I'm not prepared to make a decision.
and that's perfect. I think
That's what I asked for, was trying to get more data before this, to understand the scope.
there's a
I don't have it. So why you're jumping to conclusions. Remember, the reason why we're doing this, I'm making assumptions, suggestions based on feelings, copying others. That isn't,
Here,
That's not what's happening here, yeah. Look at
those are your words,
well,
because we don't have the data. So we're gonna need to get the data before we can come back and have this conversation.
what data are you looking at? What data do you want? Tell us specifically what data you want. What data specifically? Because then that will give us a chance to have it. You want us to test all teachers? You want to make that mandatory? Then what data?
The question was, why are they out? Are they out due to quarantine of close contact with someone who's positive? Are they out because they're positive? Those are the only COVID-related things for COVID mitigation. Or are they out for any other reason?
And if they don't answer those questions, they choose not to.
Why are you coming up with roadblocks for everything when you want a solution?
Your choice and goes both ways, right? And if they can have choice in they have to have a choice. So I'm just trying to get to, I don't want to get to a solution. So I want to know specifically.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna ask, folks, I get it, this is heated, but this meeting is open so that we can have a discussion. I need you to please stop talking so we can discuss and get to somewhere in this and get folks home, okay? Thank you. Sorry.
Yes. Can I respect you and our differences? I always have, I think that's the strength of this board.
Yes.
And I'm not trying to be a jerk, that is my.
I answered your question and then you kind of countered me, so I got frustrated.
And I just really want to know, because I want to get to the school building, that's my part, that is my part. So if there's data that we need, I just want to know, what is that? And then my follow-up question, sincerely, I wasn't trying to be a jerk, is if a teacher is out, are we going to require them to have a COVID test? Because if we don't do that, I don't know that we want to do that, but if we don't do that, we're not going to actually know, we're just going to be dependent upon what they tell us. So,
We are, and there's no reason to not trust what they tell us and ask the question.
but it's a personal medical thing. They don't have.
No. So let's be clear. An email went out just yesterday that said, you must report to HR if you have been in close contact and are in need of quarantining, if you have taken a test and are awaiting a result, and if you are positive. Those three pieces of information that staff is now required to give to HR, that is great data. We don't have that right now.
That would be helpful.
Absolutely.
A decision.
Absolutely.
Okay, and that would enable us to then know which teachers are out for COVID, why, and potentially then.
Help us make better decisions. And then we understand more of the impacts of what's happening in our buildings. Well, or just of our teachers and our staff, because that's where right now we're hemorrhaging is with our staff.
Okay. And what are our tools of, what would be our decisions that we would make? What are the different tools in our toolbox?
That's a good question, and I think until we get that number, until we discern those numbers, we won't know. And I think you have to look at that and understand the numbers and go from there. I don't have that right now.
Yeah, I'm not a medical professional.
No, you're good, and we don't know that now.
Yeah.
Right now, what I know is it's less than 1%. And that is not the desire of our community. So, and maybe another piece of data point we can have would be an understanding of teachers of what they'd like with the survey. Do they want masks? And I get frustrated with, if that's the only way to stay open, that's Stockholm syndrome. That's, if there's no other way. I don't want this to sound like we're the oppressors. And that's how it feels when our community is clearly living their lives in this city. We see it every day, and it's beautiful. They are out, they're excited, they're happy, they are making memories, and good things are happening outside every day. And so when we, as the district, and the only ones decide to mandate something different that they don't want, they don't choose for themselves naturally on a daily basis, we are the oppressors.
And all, except it's some, and a growing number of hospitals and ICUs and dying. And so I just want to avoid that.
Again, you're making 99% suffer for the 1%. You can't control that 1%, and the 1% that are dying are mostly older and have comorbidities or other issues that we're not going to control.
If the hospital gets so full, then if one of us gets an accident, there's all that. There's crisis centers of care being actually. This is very serious. This is very serious, and it's coming to our valley. And I just want to get ahead of it. And I just want to know if it's teachers and we do tests, and we get that information, but what do we do with it? Because there isn't very many tools in our toolbox. And this is important for our kids. It's much more than, it is important for our kids. And so what levers do we have to pull? You know, I mean, vaccines.
I would
masks,
probably
social-
prefer, if you were to ask me and put me on the spot without knowing all that data and where everybody is, and I were to go down the line, I would probably say, potentially having masks for teachers over children for a first step. It's a lot more difficult for kids, especially our younger kids. Just the mental trauma alone, the tears that parents fight, to go to school, that's substantial and that's real for them.
May I add, looking at, just in trying to look around the valley, I know we're not trying to mimic other districts, but just seeing what's happening in other districts, I was very interested to see that the Boise School District, who are completely fully maxed right now, have almost identical numbers to what we have in elementary schools. Anywhere from 0 to 5 per grade of students. It looks identical. We have 6 schools with 0 COVID cases currently, and 6 elementary schools. The other schools, we have anywhere from, I think maybe the highest one was 6 cases as of, that was last week's number, not today's number, or this week's number. And another piece of data that I would look at is the data that we did send a survey out in May. And I know things have changed since May, but my guess would be if we were to survey the same people we surveyed in May, that the survey would come back very similar. And that was 70% of the community and students were in favor of optional masks. So I don't know why we turn and run from that and assume everything is brand new and that everyone in the community has changed their mind. I feel like that's what we're seeing here tonight. That's what we see in the community. That's the way, if you've gone into any school buildings this year, that's what we're seeing happening in the buildings, among teachers, among students. I would say way more than 70% just from my eyeball looking at it. So yeah, I think what Tim said is we're walking in and saying we know better, and then we know better, and then we are going to tell you. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right. I think that families and parents know what's best. And I think exactly the numbers we have right now, and they're pulling outside. I agree, some positions help. I know they don't have every number because no one does, but they're saying no one's getting it at school. People reporting are not getting it at school. The community is wide open. Why would we? I'm sorry, I'm in the city of Nampa. In the city of Nampa, as far as I know, there are no mandates. There might be some employers.
Sure.
That I'm not aware of, but as far as I know, it's, rec centers open, they're running their harvest run, a couple of people, like, families are out doing things. There's the balloon festival in Boise. I mean, people are out doing things. So for us to take this little world and try to control it, I don't think is the answer. I think the schools are.
They are open, keep them going.
Okay, and so it's okay that we are missing 25%.
I think that's the great news about COVID is that there's really awesome analogs. So these kids aren't going to keep doing it. Let's run it through.
I think it's important to not. I'm hearing that some of you are like, why did we even need to have this meeting? I think it's important for us to have this conversation. It's important for us to put a pin and say, we're going to look at this research and we're going to ask questions and we're going to do this. And it's not to say because we know better than anybody else, but it is the job that we signed on for. It is the job that we signed on for to create quality education for all students. Not 99%, not 50%, not 10%, not 1%. It's for all, right? And I think it's important that we have these conversations, and the only way we get to do that is in public. Because I know if we could sit in a room and dialogue and think outside the box and not have people like yelling at us and booing us and right, like
we could probably come up with lots of ideas and different things, and we could focus in on things, right? But we do have numbers that are super low as far as attendance, whether that's COVID related or not. And that's an issue for us because we are financially responsible to this community. And if we lose funding, we're in trouble, right? Here's the other thing, insurance. Days in the ICU. I just wonder, like, what's gonna happen? Because it doesn't matter if our employees are in the ICU or somebody else's employees are in the ICU. I think we all know what happens to insurance rates from year to year. Because they're gonna recoup their money, right? So here's the deal, but we have a financial responsibility.
You've got way beyond our scope.
How is this beyond our scope? We are financially responsible for this
There are
district.
teachers who have gotten in our school building. This is people are living their lives.
So let's take a positive spin on it, okay? Let's be positive. So when kids are at school, they're in PE, they're at recess, they're exercising. When they're home, they're probably on the couch playing video games. I don't know, might not. Let's speak for mine. But we know that. We know where they're active, they're engaged, they're exercising. That's healthy, that's good. We know that we have free lunches in our districts now. We know we have healthy lunches. That's good. Our kids are eating, they're getting nutrition. That's good for your immune system. So let's talk about the positives of those things. There's some positives there too. This coming to this meeting and having this conversation, just by calling this meeting, do you know how many tears children have shed for fear that we're going to come down? The implications of this knee-jerk back and forth, we're going to constantly meet and constantly change the rules, is real trauma for them. That is one of the impacts of this meeting, and one I didn't want to have. I was fine with status quo, and I very probably last night said I would welcome in the future a conversation to ask me that, and I would let you know that. So I'm answering your question on that, and I want this district to grow and do better. We heard from our superintendent and our mayor a group video of let's do better together, let's continue, let's do well. I want to follow that. Now, lately, it's not new information. Our hospitals made mandates upon their employees. That didn't go well. I was at a function at a fair rodeo where they were announcing all the rodeo gals carrying their flag coming around the arena, and here's our sponsor, so-and-so, and everybody claps and cheers. And here's our sponsor, and it's one of our local hospitals. And I can tell you that stadium was dead silent, and that poor girl didn't get a single clap. It wasn't her fault, it was the flag she was carrying of the school, or the hospital, because of the climate of that hospital mandates. I do not want that for this district.
And I hope that you're not saying I do, because neither do I.
No, but that's what mandates have done to this community. That's why I don't want any. I want them to have their choice. I've seen the effects that it's had, that other institutions have made, the effects that it's had, and it's not positive, and that's why I don't want this motion. And I want to leave our plan the way it is, and I want to run our schools and educate kids. Yeah, so let's keep doing it. Let's just keep doing status quo. It's working. Kids are learning. My daughter's learning more in these couple of weeks than she did most of last year.
I wanted to talk about things related, but I got cut off and turned around and told I couldn't talk about it, so that's fine. I think we're ready for a vote, though. I think we're just rehashing things. If that's okay with everyone. So all in favor of this motion that's on the table, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Nay. So it doesn't pass. Thank you. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.